Hi, and welcome to another memory technique. This time, this is for Beth. She's wanting to learn the highway code. Now, I'm not here to teach the highway code. That'd take far too long. You have to put the study in. All I'm doing is teaching a technique on how to retain the information, how to recall it. You know, it is a memory technique. It's not actually learning. You have to put the study in. And what I do recommend is keep your study time short, maybe set a timer for 25 minutes. We find it easier to retain when we're learning the first part of the information that we learn and the end part of the information, the last thing we've learned. So if you spend 3 hours studying, you're going to retain what you first started reading and what you last read. So you've got quite a large period in the middle where there's a lot of information you may not be able to recall. If you keep your study time down to about 25 minutes, there's a lot less in the middle to forget. So after that 20, set a timer or something like that, and after that 25 minutes, go off, make a cup of tea, forget about what you're doing, totally change your mindset, come back to it. And when you do, set that timer again for 25 minutes, spend the first 5 minutes just going over what you've already learned, and then spend the next 20 minutes learning some new information. This way, you'll spend a lot less time studying, but you will still have to put the work in. There's no excuse for that. Right, the way you can use the journey method to memorize the highway code, you could do it from beginning to end. With the highway code, each rule has a little blue dot with a rule next to it. Now, if you wanted to, you could go through the whole book, putting each rule in a different location on a journey. Unfortunately, your journey would be hundreds of stops long. Now, this would take quite a long time to memorize, but it can be done. The journey method can be used in this way. However, what I would do is go through the highway code first of all. You really are wanting to read all of it. When it comes to taking your driving test, there'll only be certain sections that you need, but you will need to know for using the road, it's best to know about everything: pedestrians, horse riders, motorbikes, cyclists, whichever it is. Once you've been through it, you'll find there's a lot of cross-referencing. A lot of rules refer to other rules, or road markings. There might be pictures of road markings referring to rules. What I'd do is group them all together how you want them, so you've got the information condensed into what you need. When you're taking your driving test, I'd only really concentrate on what you need for driving a car on the road. Everything you need to know about road markings, road signs, signalling, overtaking, just whatever it is for a car, that's the part that I'd be trying to install to memorize rather than trying to memorize every single bit. The way that I do it is start with categories. Now, if you go to the index, the first sections are pedestrians, um, animals, cyclists, motorcyclists, and it's not until page 34 you get to general rules and techniques, advice for drivers and riders. That's probably where I'd start. And from there, all the different categories, there's about 16. So I'd then have a journey of 16 stops. Bearing in mind, each stop is going to have an area where I'm going to place different rules. So it's not just a case of one thing in one place. There will be categories which have a stop, and within that stop, there's going to be an area that I place things. So I might make this, because you're not driving yet, you may take a lot of bus journeys, and I'd probably make this a bus journey. If you remember the bus stops, 16 bus stops on a journey that you regularly take, you'll know things around it, whether there's benches or shops or, you know, different things that you can place things at each stop. Now, the first category is general rules. So what I'd probably do is get to the first stop of my journey, get off the bus, and imagine a general stood there, stood to attention. So that'd be the general rules. That's the category for that first stop. Then I'll be moving on to stop 2. Stop 2 is then using the road. So I may imagine as I get off the bus, there's a road that unfolds in front of me like a carpet. And I can imagine that being using the road. Whatever associations you make them interesting, make them bizarre, whatever's going to stick in your mind. Remember to use all your senses. You know, we experience the world through our senses. So if you use your senses when you're positioning everything, even smell, taste, you know, your sight, touch, sounds, whatever it is, if you're using all these senses when you place them, they'll be a lot easier to recall. Now go through each step of the journey like this, placing the associations for each category until you've got to the last stop. Then once you've got all the categories placed on this journey, go back to the first stop. You get off the bus, the general's there. See the area around the bus stop. Take one of the rules that's in that category and place the association at one of these places. Maybe there's a bench there, so place it on that bench. For general rules, you get your stopping distances. Now, stopping distances used to be quite easy to remember when I was learning. One of the distances seems to have changed by a couple of feet, and I don't know why. But it used to be 20 mile an hour was 2 times in feet, so it's 40 feet. Then 2.5 times for 30 miles an hour, 75 feet. 3 times for 40 miles an hour, which is 120 feet, but now it says 118 feet for some reason. Don't know why. And then 3.5 times for 50 mile an hour, which is 150 feet. So it went up in increments like that. Maybe you don't want to use this method to remember them. Maybe you could use your number associations to remember your stopping distances. On that bench, you might have the number 20, and where that number 20 is, you might have pushing and an angel, which is 40 for me. Use your associations. What will be sat on that bench in that position of the 20? And then maybe there's a label of 30. And imagine your objects sat on that part of the bench, and you can remember your stopping distances that way. Anything that helps you to recall the information, all in that one position. Then you move on to stop 2. You're only positioning one rule at a time. Move on to stop 2, where the road unfolds and it's, you know, use of the road. And then pick an area, you know, pick somewhere. It might be a shop, you know, pick a position in that area around that bus stop. Might be a shop or something like that, where you can put the next rule. The rule from, you know, using the road. It might be overtaking or something like that. And remembering those rules, put the association in that place, and go through the journey like this. All 16 stops, one rule in each place. And then when you got to the end, go right back to the beginning, and you can go back to stop 1. You get off, the general's there. You've got another rule to position. You remember the speed limits are there. There's a bench with all the numbers on and the associations. Then place your next rule. And every time you go through, you're going back over each category, each rule, and it's installing them even more so you can remember what's there. Makes it a lot easier to retain rather than putting everything there at once and trying to remember what's there. Put them there one at a time, and every time you go back through the journey, you're reviewing it and you're adding bit by bit, and it makes it a lot easier to install. So if that's clear enough for you, I wish you luck with that. When you've finished and gone through it all and you're confident that you've got it and you've reviewed them all, ask a friend to ask you a few questions. Get a friend to test you. And if there's anything that you're not quite sure about, if you ask you a question and you can't really find it on your journey, go back and change that association, make it stronger, make it more emotional, maybe even funny or frightening. Whatever stimulates you the most, just change it to something memorable. And keep going through, keep getting your friends to ask you questions. And I'm sure in no time you better recall all that information. But don't forget, the initial study is down to you. How you place that study on your journey will help you to recall it. And I wish you luck with it. I wish you luck with your test. So when I return to memory techniques, I'm going to be teaching the Dominic system, which was created by the genius Dominic O'Brien, 8 times world memory champion. But until then, I'm going to be making a few videos on issues like anxiety, how to deal with anxiety and depression, maybe even some videos on pain relief, whether it's emotional or physical. So until next time, have a great day and keep being awesome.